Today, inside the vault, Fred and I break down ways to apply this week's virtue as believers, husbands, fathers, and friends. Whoever you are and wherever you are, we're glad you made it. Are you ready? Let's get back to good.
We're talking about culture today. Fred, say hi to the people. Say what's up,
folks.
If you've never heard us before, then welcome. We're glad you're here. But we're just treating it like you guys all know and gals know who we are. Because if you're listening, you probably do. Culture is super important. It is coming off the heels of optimism. I know that was on the heels of a lot of volatile things happening in the world. I thought it was timely. I really appreciated the insight from you and the guests in Off the Hinges this past week. Recorded with a good brother of mine, fellow Marine who's been doing it for a while. He was born in Venezuela, and he talked about culture and unpacked that. Also a fellow man of faith, so he brought that aspect into it, which I valued because he has, I think, a good firm root in the way he views it and appreciates it from an individual to a team or organizational to also just like a spiritual. And I think that's really where it lands for me, much like optimism. Like culture is so much rooted in your, really, what's your core belief. And it's rising to the top for a lot of people these days. When someone tells you or shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And people are getting really happy to tell you. Over to you. What are your thoughts on this before we start chopping it up, man? Like, I can't wait for this one with you, my dude.
This dude is setting me up.
I'm telling you, take the mic, baby. You got it.
You know, culture is something I think for a while we often associated strictly with race. I think for a long time when people thought about culture, and maybe ethnos is probably the better word, it was identified by a group set of people with common norms, values, perspectives. And now that word has really expanded in different ways that I think we're all still trying to figure out what is the culture of our communities, our places of worship, our places of business, in our personal lives with friends and family. What are those set of norms that I think were a lot easier, again, for its opinion, a lot easier to be identified maybe 30, 40 years ago? I hate to say it that far.
Why do you think it is that it was easier? I mean, you just triggered something in my brain by saying that, but why?
So I will say this. I just felt like, and it's funny, this is great. Someone was talking to me about, our childhood, and I said, it's really interesting. This is going to be a slight tangent, but I promise I'll bring it back.
Do it. Do your thing.
And it was a comment on, this is going to be a touchy topic, I know, but I'm going to say it, letting your kids go over to folks' houses for sleepovers. Anyway.
Hey, we can dive down that rabbit hole.
In our current culture, more parents are more apprehensive of that type of activity than 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, I think, not to say, and please do not misunderstand, not to say that things were not happening inappropriately 30, 40 years ago. But there appeared to be much more of a common set of values and respect, especially as I believe studies have shown that most things that happen negatively at sleepovers are typically with people that you know versus people that you don't know closely. It just appeared that there were more common values, morals across wider sets of people, that it was easier to feel comfortable to let your child be in the care of someone else. Even to the fact of, I remember, I don't think this is anything bad to say because I appreciated it. I remember when I was in elementary school, the teacher had the ability to discipline us. That was a very common, it was a culturally acceptable thing. Now, there were guardrails around it, but absolutely, I knew what a ruler was. And yes, there was contact with my body in that ruler. But there was an understanding. And I believe parents at that time respected teachers and people in authority, that if that was happening, it was being done for the right reason and it was warranted.
Hey, when it comes to learning retention, sometimes pain retains, baby.
I'm just saying, right? Yet now, the culture is very different. We're in a very different place when it comes down to that common base or foundation of norms and values and what respect is. And I think it is much more difficult now to clearly understand where someone stands when it comes down to those factors than maybe it was years ago. It just felt like, again, I'm using some very generic words. I know it's not an absolute, but it felt like, if you were in a place of worship, you felt like the majority of the people believed what you believed. Now, some of that could not have been true. It felt that way. If you went to a certain type of school, whatever the reason you went to that particular school, this was secondary education, you understood the culture of that school. There was a norm about that school. If you selected a specific place of business, there was a culture about the business that you understood why you went to that business because it aligned to, your morals, your values, whatever, what you supported.
Right.
Those lines are blurred now, man.
Yeah.
I think they're very gray. And I think it takes people a little bit more time to figure out and understand what is the culture of a place. And I think that's also, it just came to me. I think that's the reason why people struggle adapting, because it's harder to identify what the norm, values, foundations are in certain environments.
That's so good.
Where it used to be a lot simpler. You wonder why people are struggling a little bit is because it's kind of constantly changing.
It is. And I'll tell you, man, because it's like you just hit a really soft spot of, I'd say, organizational underbellies for people is don't get twisted what Fred just said as saying like, oh, well, we have some values, some organizational values, an organizational mission statement, vision. People know how to put lipstick on the pig, but your pig still squeals. It likes to go and play in the trough and it gets nasty and muddy. And we ain't trying to eat up that pork. It's gross. Like, it's not it, man. So just because you say these are my values, there is such a marriage in the true identity of what you really are founding yourself or your culture or your organization or your group of people, what you are founding your identity on, really, your core.
Yes.
Does that marry what you actually walk out, what you actually talk out? And there is a flow to it. So like your identity drives your actions, and that will shape the feelings or the spirit around you. It's a head, it's a hands, it's a heart. Oh my goodness, it's like what we talk every week. Yes, what we are here about is empowering culture. It's number one in my tagline. It's what we believe, and there is a flow to it, and it has to come rooted in your core values, your core identity, your virtue, and what you actually intellectually believe. And it can be in your heart as well. But then you have to act it out. And it's going to be not synchronized. It's not going to be harmonious if you actually don't believe it.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, there are times where you can think about things that you would believe would happen, but if you haven't been hit with some really hard stuff in life and you haven't experienced it yet, maturity and exposure and experience in life exposes what you actually believe when you're hitting the chops. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a shun. We've all gone through it. I surely have. And then it makes you go reflectively back to the drawing board and go like, ooh, I said that I believe this way, or I actually wanted to believe this way, but I didn't act that way.
Right.
Where am I offline or where? So for me as a man of faith, it drives me back to my faith, back to scripture, back to what I believe is true. And I go, am I offline here? Did I not rightly divide that word of truth? Am I misinterpreting? Am I bastardizing? Am I ham-fisting it? Am I cherry-picking it to be out of cultural context that it might have been written for and trying to misappropriate it to something it shouldn't be appropriated to? There's so many things you can start weeding out of there. And then you go like, ooh, I really do have to study this down. I really do have to try and like grapple with this in the mind space. But then acting it out, like just someone should be able to look at the way you act. And it shouldn't be rocket science when you say, this is the way I believe. That is we talked about it last week. It's the fruit. It's the fruit that tells what sort of tree or what sort of produce you are or plant or whatever. The harvest is a great example of that. Nature doesn't lie in certain things. 2 lions aren't going to pop out giraffes. Like, right? So like whatever you're investing in or literally sowing your seeds to is going to recreate that same sort of thing. So your culture, if you want to cut to the quick of it, man, whether you're a person, an organization, a CEO, a C-suite, whatever, a military leader, a mom and a dad, a kid in college trying to find your way, it doesn't matter. Whoever you say you are, all right, a little less talk and a lot more action now.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is. Let's see it.
Yeah.
Let's see it. And how are you holding firm to that? And then it will create that ripple effect in that spirit. And that's the interesting thing, because that is why I'm a firm believer that understanding the power of emotional intelligence and understanding the way people feel, it's not about fluffy feelings, but the way that you can adapt and be flexible to appreciate other people and the way they feel. If you leave them with a good impression, or it feels nice to be around you, or it's a good experience, they might want to walk that back in a little bit and go like, what action made me feel this way? And then if they get from the feeling, which is the first thing that hits them, is a sense. We sense before we make sense.
Yeah.
You smell before you go, ooh, that smells like crap, or it smells like a delicious dinner. So like that feeling awakens their senses.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a desirable sense or an enticing sense, they might go, ooh, what's that? And then that fruit leads them to, ooh, this is the type of tree. I want more of that. And then it gets to the core of the root system. Like, how can I nurture and multiply this? So there's so much here today, man. Like, I think culture is all about multiplication in a world that screams division and culture wars and cultural clashes. And it's just stretched and politicized and weaponized at every turn and every nook and cranny of this world. Culture in its true form is a beautiful thing. And it is so divergent and diverse from any other culture. No two cultures are the same, nor should they be. And you nail it. I think for me, it was easier maybe growing up because pride has always been a thing and respect has always been a thing. But I think we have lost our way with a sense of humility. I think we have lost our way with a true identity. And those who know me know where I'm going with this, with some resilience to not be bound by what we see around us, but being aware of it. And then teamwork, like true collaboration, like the HIRT. So it takes a culture of HIRT, the way I think about it, to overcome this culture that's just been like crushed and pressed and hurt and kicked to the corner.
Yeah.
Like, why are you ostracizing people, man? So it's a deep conversation, but I think the heart of it transcends even just, like you said, maybe it's a regional thing, maybe it's an ethnic thing, maybe it's associated with race or different foods, or those are all beautiful. Yeah. But I think it's so much more than that. To me, it's a God thing.
Yeah.
And it comes down to true culture is revealed by my posture for me. It's revealed by my posture inside of me towards God, towards myself, and towards other people. And not what I say, but the way that I respond through my words and through my deeds to God, to myself, and to all others. And that's why those are the top 2 commandments. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Everything, the law of the prophets hinges on these things. So when you can figure that piece out, or at least appreciate, you need to try and figure it out, I think then culture can start to navigate its space correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to dive in today. We're just going to do it. So yeah, as we're framing this up, what you got on where you step into it when you're trying to look at culture, when you're trying to look at the values you're holding tightly to right now, or how you're trying to inform the culture you have, like in the Hill home or organizationally, or just in everyday passing by people on the street? Like what's the sense you have around this word?
Yeah. As you were talking, man, what also hit me was culture is also something that even if you are not intentional about creating it, it is being created.
Yeah.
And I think I have become very sensitive as a leader, not only in my home, but also in my professional work, that what you do creates the culture. It's not about the things that you try to emulate from either other people or other scenarios or environments. And I think that's something that's been hitting pretty hard lately when, to your point, you hear people say all the things, but it's the actions that are actually creating the culture of an environment. So let's take it back, right? For your family, for my family, I have learned very much so that my kids watch much more of what I do than what I say. And they will recall back to me things I'm not even thinking about that I'm doing. They will emulate it in other ways. And I see it and I'm kind of like, wait a minute, where did you start doing that? And then I thought about it. I was like, wait, I do that. So what's become acceptable in our home is absolutely a reflection of what my wife and I are doing on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, some of the verbal stuff comes in there every now and then. It sticks sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of what we do is absolutely hands down a reflection of the culture that's been created in our home. Again, I've talked about this before. We're really big on affirmations and confessions and making sure that we're starting our day and saying things that at least direct us in a certain direction. And my kids will ask, hey, Dad, when are you saying your confessions? I didn't know you even knew I said confessions, right?
Right.
Or if we have a devotional book that we'll use. My kids will automatically go get the devotional book on the weekends and put it on the kitchen counter. And it's sitting there ready for us because that they've accepted this is what mommy and daddy does on a weekend, to make sure that they're connecting. That's what's creating the culture in our home. They know first thing in the morning, I'm going to the gym. So the first thing they get back, they go, hey, how was the gym? Right? It's a culture. They understand physical fitness is a part of what we do. And it's the same thing in our professional lives. As much as we want to talk about, and I have personally, I don't know, I tried to coin this. I don't think it's a real thing, but I'm going to figure out because it probably is some type of theory, silent leadership. I can't put my finger exactly on how to describe it, but the best way I can say it is I want my actions to speak louder than my words. And it's something about your ability to be in a room and for your actions to dictate or influence the room in a way that moves a group in a positive direction. That's the kind of leadership I want. It's not about the loud clanging cymbal, right? Scripturally, or the brass, right? It's not about all the things to your point that you're saying. It's how are you doing it in action? So my thought is with my leaders, I set an example by what I do, hopefully influencing them to then lead their teams in a way that also replicates that same behavior, that it's not just in word, but it's in action. So it's all about the reflection. To me, it's about what am I reflecting? And you can see it. Let's talk about that for a second. I love when people like to get upset and say, I don't like a certain culture. Well, hold up. Guess what? You created it.
Mm-hmm.
The very culture that you are critiquing and that you don't appreciate, you're contributing to.
Yes.
How do you
Yes.
make sure if you don't like the culture that you're in, especially as a leader, that you're doing all that you can to change it? Because people
Exactly.
are only emulating what they see.
And I love that because that word of creating and also contributing to is spot on, because whether you think you're building it or not, your words aren't building your culture. Your words are building some pamphlet or some promotional on top of your website and maybe a drop down our core values. Fantastic. Like, that's needed. Not knocking on it. But that's not your culture. Or it is, if you actually know what you're doing.
Right.
If you're actually doing what you say you know what you're doing.
Right.
But that alone is not your culture. Your culture is the contributions, the daily investments of words and deed.
Yes.
Of all of your people collectively. And if you're a leader, it does start with you.
Yes.
Because you can say, I want a culture of feedback. But if every time you sit around a boardroom meeting and someone tries to give you feedback and you snipe them down and execute them, or like then close lips, okay, well, that's not what you want.
Right.
Okay. But then if you have that, you have this very draconian, over the top, authoritarian type leadership where people are hard workers and you might be successful in business, but your culture sucks. Well, it's probably because you suck.
Right.
Let's be real.
Right.
Like, it is a reflection, a very quick reflection of what you're creating. And I love that about what you said as a father. You can't sleep on that, because the behaviors that your child has, not that there's not stray voltage in their children and they're developing, but all in all, you can sense very quickly the culture of a family. by the way the children act. That's why I am so quick when I see children, especially doing the right thing. I love to find their parents and say like, hey, I just did it in church the other day. There's this little kid that comes into Sunday school when I teach, and man, he is the most respectful kid. And he is just you can see it in his face. He lights up to engage and to be kind and to help others. And I told his parents, I was like, hey, I've never met you. My name's Josh, but I teach every once in a while for these kiddos on Sunday, and your son is so respectful. And he's just a joy to be around. And I said, as a parent, I think you need to hear that. You're doing a really good job with him.
Yes.
And I don't even need to, I have never met his parents, and I can look at his parents and say, you're doing a good job, because that is the culture they are creating. That's what silent leadership is, Fred.
Yes.
You want to know how to do silent leadership? Let your people go and then see what's up. See what you get feedback. Let your little varmints run around the world a little bit and then see what feedback you get. And it's
true.
And you can't pull the wool over people's eyes, especially with kids, because they're going to be honest. But I said this with Ed when I had him on for Off the Hinges, and I said, man, a question that I have asked, it's not original to me, I'm sure, but to me, it was original because I had never heard anyone else do this. So I'm sure other people have done it, and I'm just ignorant enough to not know it. But I ask my daughters and my wife pretty frequently, but my little girls especially, I'll catch them off guard when they're comfortable, when the setting is good. And I'll just be like, hey, what does it feel like? Like, what is it like to experience Daddy when he walks in a room?
Oh.
And I catch them when they're comfortable, or maybe I'll take them on an ice cream date where I know they're happy and feeling love, and like I'm not instigating anything or trying to make up for anything. It's just they feel at ease, they feel happy, and I know it's sort of like ice cream is like little kids' whiskey. It's the truth serum, man. They just say what they're going to say. And I'm like, hey, what's it like to experience Daddy? Or when Daddy walks in a room, what goes through your mind? And they know they can be honest. So I can't give a response to that. I just have to be in listen mode.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very encouraging, and sometimes they'll give me an honest feedback. Or like Ed said, he was like, hey, what was your favorite thing about this weekend? Or what's something Daddy could have done better? So when you're truly, really trying to refine your culture and get feedback from the people around you about like, what's the experience actually like?
Yeah.
Is there a marriage between my word and deed?
Yes.
And then you can see where you're misaligned.
Yes.
And that feedback, if you're willing to listen to it, those are some of them. Like, imagine how that feels when people ask you that, right? Like, if someone actually asked me that, like, hey, what's it like to experience me? And no repercussions. I could be very honest. And through repetition, they would learn, oh, this isn't a harmful thing to respond to because he's actually going to change if he needs to. Man, how welcoming and inclusive is that culture then? It's beautiful, but it's so hard to listen to.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? Something else you're doing that you have excited me, and I'm going to steal it. Sorry. I just love it, dude.
Stolen. Take it.
Look, you are also making your kids aware that they should be asking for feedback.
Yeah.
It becomes a part of their
because it's the behavior.
Norm.
It's what you're doing.
Because it's brilliant, dude. Like when you think about it, how many times have we done that at work, but not even with friendships? Let's just be honest. There should be some self-assessment.
Are we going there? Are we going to do this for
I'm just saying, right? Let's just go there for a second, right? But think about how much more intense and just committed brother to brother, siblings, parent, whatever, right? If we were to honestly ask those type of questions and create a culture where open feedback and impact could be shared, how much better would we be as an individual? But because we don't have a culture that embraces that, why? Because of the word you used earlier, pride. We first of all believe for some reason in our heads, we do everything right and we do nothing wrong and it's everyone else's fault except ourselves. Let's just talk about that for a second. But we also don't want to hear what we already know. Many of these things, if someone would start to tell, I promise you, and I don't even know what your daughter said, but whatever they said to you on those days when they gave you whatever feedback wasn't the beaming joys of, Daddy Josh is doing everything perfect, you probably knew exactly what they were talking about, referencing, or probably even aware of it when you were doing it.
Yep.
We all know it.
And sometimes it's what drives me to ask the question.
Right.
I'm going to be very honest. I've gotten sensitive with them to where if I feel like I misstepped, I won't ask them right in the moment because I don't want it to be like a sore wound.
Yeah.
but I'll tuck it away. I'll be prayerful and reflective on it. Then I'll go back to him and be like, hey. And it's almost like the reflection of seeking input opens a door for mending and almost for like confessing together to each other.
Yes.
And so it's a really restorative process where I'm stitching back the seams that I might have started to shred a little bit with them. So I can be like, hey, and if I will promise you this, if they ever call out something that I did that was, if it was just like, oh, this is a little weird, then that's fine. Or it's a little off. But if it's anything that was an offense to them or where I might have hurt them, especially if I didn't know about it, I immediately ask their forgiveness. Like there's no reflecting on that one. Because the spirit of that and the heart of that little girl is like, man, I don't even need to ask why. You gave me your honest perspective. And even if that's not where my intent was, if that's how it landed, I was wrong.
Yeah.
So it's an immediate, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
And they're so quick to be like, it's okay, Daddy.
Yes.
But as a leader, man, there's so much here to unpack with culture. Respect and dignity and pride in a healthy way are good.
Yes.
A lack of respect and a lack of dignity for all others, and then a pride and an arrogant sense of the term that's destructive. That's what I see seeping out of so much of our, let's use the word, culture today.
Yeah.
And I call it the culture because like you can say whatever you want to say. I watch what you're doing and it's just nasty. It's nasty. And what would it look like if people could say, I need to take a beat. What's it actually like to experience me? What was it like to experience those words or actions that I did? And nobody cares because they're right. I'm just going to do this. And that's like what's bred. And it's so wicked, man. It's straight up evil. And it's just, you feed that beast, and one day it devours you. Why are you acting shocked when it disintegrates your whole society? You've been feeding that beast your whole life with your arrogance. And now it grew into the monster that you made it, and you're shocked it's devouring you. That's what wickedness and sin and evil in the world does.
Right.
And so like, but what if we could be like, hey, what's it like to experience me? And then if someone says something, and heaven forbid that they tell you an offense, whether you thought you were right or not, if you actually offended them and the intent was connection and you didn't connect, you severed, what would it look like if you genuinely said, I'm so sorry for that?
Yes.
That doesn't mean that I still see eye to eye with you on this point or whatever, but that's irrelevant because I hurt you and you're a fellow human. And I am so sorry for that. Like, if everybody in the world did that for one day, what would that day be like? Like, and I know we're like, that could never happen. Just, why not? Think about it. Pick 10 people. If 10 people in the same circle treated each other with that sort of dignity and respect and appreciation for each other. And vulnerability. And ability. But here's where I'm going to flip it. Forgiveness has such a golden thread through this because you have to be humble enough to forgive.
That's true.
So it's difficult to be open and transparent in a culture where you don't feel like you will ever be able to get over the thing you did wrong.
Yeah.
So if there's no forgiveness culturally, if all you preach is this love and this structure and this thing, but if you step outside the dotted line, you're done. In a family, in a business, in a church, in a community, in a nation, in a whatever. If you have no capacity to forgive, man, I don't think you can build a good culture because people are going to mess it up.
Right.
And that's where you said this, what would it be like? I'm just going to give you all a quick snapshot and then I'm going to kick it back over to Fred for whatever else he wants to unpack. But I'm going to read this verse because this is what reminds me of Fred. So if you were to say, what would it be like to ask a friend, what is it like to experience me? And I genuinely think of you and your family a lot when I think of the verses that we gave our daughters as their life verse when we dedicate them as babies. And it's Romans 12:9-12. And the words, and this is out of the New Living Translation, but the words, the way that it's written in this translation, I love it. I really, really love it. And I'll give you a quick snapshot why this is who Fred is to me. But it says, don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. And those verses, man, like I love them. I love them because imagine a culture that just took those 3 verses and did that. And that's who I know Fred to be. And there is layers of forgiveness. There have been times where he and I have talked on stuff and I've been like, yo, man, this isn't anything I did towards you. I'm not going to give you all the context. I just need you to pray for me and to be just like a spiritual buddy for me because I'm going through some stuff right now. I've made some bad choices, which I do very frequently. My behaviors weren't aligned to the heart of who you know I want to be. I need a brother on my side. And this man is wise enough to say, man, you know I already got you. And he'll be like, whatever it is, even if it was to me, man, like, you know, God's already forgiven you. I forgive you. You don't have to tell me or you can tell me everything. It's sort of irrelevant. I'm with you. There's nothing you can tell me that would change that, man. I love you, brother. That's the type of man this is. This guy doesn't owe me anything. And like, so how is this friendship so tight and real? It's because of that posture towards his God, towards himself. He's confident in who he is. He's humble enough in who he is. And then the way he presents himself to his friends and to his brothers. That's what it's like to experience Fred, like real talk. And I love that about you, man. So like, there's some feedback. And are there times where we step out of line with each other? Yep. And we bust each other in the chops. And we're like, yo, that ain't it, brother. And you're like, yeah, man, you're right. Okay. I'm going to dial it on back for a second. But when you know the heart of it,
yes,
and you know the core identity of it, you can have some grace and some forgiveness for the stray voltage. And you know the intent. Or even if the intent was wrong, you can have some grace and forgiveness for that too, right? So I think it's in a culture, all the strong, bold words are really important. But I think that forgiveness piece, because how many people actually feel like in their relationships, the other side would unconditionally forgive them and love them? And if you're like, oh, but you shouldn't always. Really? You shouldn't? Show me where that's found.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That ain't how I believe. So God could have done that to you. He could have been like, nah, that's the one. That's the one. You were all good until that thing happened. Never mind, I'm over you. That's not the faith I choose to believe in. But I don't know, man. That might have been a long frame up from my side, but you struck some gold with that one. And I also wanted to just honor this man because he's a good brother. So there's the experience of Fred.
Look, it takes 2 to be friends. Let me be clear about that. There are a lot of people that I've had pleasure of knowing and having shared experiences with, but our friendship has been pretty steady, man, through some very interesting times and changes and adjustments. Even now, with you being, across the pond, like for us to still be in very much so contact and connected, it states to, first of all, our priority of making sure, I think that's another thing too, right? You got to make sure that you make it a priority. Because it's very easy to not allow relationships with good people to fall by the wayside, especially in this time of life where we're both in with younger, I can't even say just young children, we're younger children. But it's also, I'm going to say it, I said it off camera, but I'm going to say it now because I want everybody to hear. The thing about Josh and I that I really appreciate and what makes me let down my guard with Josh, and this is, again, we're still talking about culture because it's the behaviors in which you do that really dictates the relationship and the interaction that you have with people, is that it is a very much so a safe place.
Yes.
I don't feel like there's anything I can't say to him in fear of some type of judgment. I feel one thing that I can say this, love about you is that you have this desire to learn. And you have this desire to continue to grow and get better, and you have great self-awareness. And when you're with somebody like that, especially, let's talk about it, man. I feel like we talked about this in one of our first podcasts. We have a tendency to like to hide behind the mask a little bit and not share some of our vulnerabilities or areas where we're not so great in. But it's something about when you can share and listen, just like my comment a second, I'm going to steal that from you. It's a bit tongue in cheek, but I mean it. I am going to steal it. And he knows it. But it's great that you can share things with other people.
You can only steal it if you tell me what Lydia says when you ask her. I want to hear a verbatim Lydia response. That's the only way you taking that one.
I suspect it will go something like, meh. That's her new word now. She does everything. Man, I'm like, really? But the whole
girl
point
is
is right.
straight on fire.
Our actions are creating the culture that we have as friends. And let's just go there for a second. I'll be honest, because I know what this feels like and what this experience is like. Sometimes it's hard for me to adjust to other relationships because I don't have that. And because I don't know where people are from a norm and what's right, what's wrong. The great thing is Josh and I have that commonality. So we're able to create a culture amongst ourselves where we can be open and free and talk about things without judgment or fear of being shamed or whatever the situation might be, right? We can just, and to your point, I love it too. We don't have to always say it. It's enough that you came to the person to say, hey, I need for you to just pray for me about this thing. Isn't about the thing, just the thing, whatever it is. I don't need to know what the thing is. Hey, he needs clarity, he needs whatever. And the same way. When my daughter got sick, there were very few people that I reached out to. And even though he was across the country, across the world, across the pond rather, I still reached out to him because I knew the prayer would still reach. It didn't matter. I knew who I could count on to actually talk to the Father with me in that particular situation. So again, creating a culture not through just the words that we say, but through how we interact, what we do. And I feel like that's the part, again, going back to my comment earlier, where there's been so much instability, man. It is hard for people to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, because we're kind of all over the place.
Yep. We are. And it's so...
As a culture, let me put that in there too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
my mind, it's when you speak, because you take me so many places through when you say things, I don't think people understand the hundreds, if not maybe even thousands by now, of conversations we've had that swarm my brain and that my mind is navigating and sifting through. Not that I remember everything like a steel trap, but there's so much context that I know where things come from, at least in my experience with you. Or like, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this time, or man, it doesn't even matter. Sometimes it'll be like a flashback to working out in the gym together or hanging out as friends together in Atlanta, to just, conversations on the phone. And that's the richness of sharing our culture and on an individual
Bible studies
level.
we used to do.
Yeah, just anything. It's all of it comes flooding back in a good way. And my mind sort of sifts through it. But when I think of, first of all, thank you for saying that, because I love you as well. And I mean, the brotherhood is tight and it's real. And I do wish that people would have this experience with others. I'm not saying that I don't expect for there to be like this huge plethora of brothers and relationships like what I have with Fred, because it's very rare. And I'm not saying that everything, but you should seek to have that same posture with everyone. And then if it's available and mutual, then it's enriching. But at a minimum, it's pleasant. And it's beneficial. So like, I think culture, the way I view culture is all about multiplication. You are taking the best of all of your diverse giftings and bringing them together to make something stronger and better. I do think of the biblical analogy of a body and the different body parts being physically separated from each other, having different forms and functions and whatevers. But when you put it all together, it's the body. And maybe in this moment, the hand can fall asleep and go numb and it's not needed. But man, you're going to need it when you need to hold fast. So there's moments when people might feel in an organization or in a culture like, I'm not being as employed right now, or I'm not as needed right now. And it's a leader's job to say, no. Just don't forget that you're incredibly valuable. And maybe in this scope, isn't where we need the hand. We might need like the pinky toe or something, or the big toe to balance us out. But like, I'm going to need to get a grip on something real soon, and I'm going to need you. And so when you can view everybody and the culture and the things they bring, and yeah, even to the little, like simple cliche common thoughts of culture, like the food they can bring in to an international day. Like, cool, man, you can bring some different spots. So like literally the culture side of culture, the way we might think of it simply. But it's not simple. It's beautiful. Those things you can bring in that are uniquely you because of where you come from, where you were born, your heritage, your values, your traditions, all of that's awesome. But when you go to the deeper heart of culture, man, I I really think it is a culture that's founded on love. That is the simple word that I think, and Fred and I say it very freely and very frequently to each other, is, man, I love this guy. I love you, brother. I love your family. So if you want to go, like, what's the common trend in the best relationships I have? It's someone that I am confident loves me unconditionally. It is. And that, so like when we're talking about working this out or the behavior of what a good culture looks like, I do land on this anchor. And this scriptural anchor is really important to me, because you can say, I love you, but then how would you frame that? And you actually have a little bit of a script that tells you. It says, love is patient, love is kind. And then some things it doesn't do, though. And I think this is maybe where we should press in a little bit more culturally in today's society. Because a lot of people be like, I'm patient, I'm kind. Okay, let's check this love does not list real quick. And I'm going to rattle this one down the list for you, because, man, we need to just buckle up and listen and let this hit you as hard as it needs to, because it does me too. Does not envy or boast. Is not arrogant or rude. Does not insist on its own way. Is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. It rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So if you can go through that whole list of is not, and you can find any of those where you struggle, honestly, you struggle. And I'm not talking about with the easy person. I'm talking about with the difficult person that you don't like. If you struggle with them, you're not love. You're not making the right culture. You're like, that's impossible with him. That's not your job to figure out. If you really say you want this culture thing to work out, and I'm not saying shy away from truth, it needs to be well balanced, but it's the balance to truth is love and grace. And that's what it looks like. So it's not always about like, give me the list of being patient and kind. I think we need to take a deeper dive as a people and as a society into that. What should we not be doing? Because flip on the news, swipe across social media, and look at the envy, the boasting, the arrogance, the rudeness, insisting on your own way, being irritable, resentful, rejoicing at wrongdoing, not rejoicing with the truth. It sounds like a lot of political parties everywhere in any country. Pick your, right? It sounds like a bunch of aisle finger wagging. And it's so divisive. It's such a chasm. That's not culture. That's not real culture. That's crooked. That's criminal. That's evil. It's gross. I don't know. So I think when you work it out, that is my anchor for like, how could I practically build a good culture? If I could just pay attention to that verse or those couple verses and try to do the things I should and not do the things I shouldn't do, I think I'm on a good path. But I don't know, when you're talking about working this out in your own family, what are your daily actions to you that sort of reveal, I'd say, to the people around you what you truly value? Like, because I know you're thoughtful in that. So what are your daily habits and actions that reveal the culture you want to be leaving behind?
Well, I think the biggest one this year is being present. I've spent a large portion of my life planning. And it's a gift, but it's also somewhat of a Achilles heel of always needing to know the future or understand what's next or be thoughtful about what's next. But I realized how much I was missing in the present. So little things I've started to do is like taking the time just to talk and sit with my wife and kids. I didn't realize how much I wasn't doing that until I realized I don't think I do it. Like when you think about it, you're trying to think about a time that you're doing something and then you can't think about a time so you're probably not doing it.
Yeah. It might not be how much was I not, it's just I was not.
Yeah, and let me be clear, right? When I say talking to my kids and my wife, I'm not talking about, let's just go there. We're not talking about giving instructions. We're not talking about, the rundown of the schedule with the wife. We're not talking about the latest happenings of the day in the sense of, is there something I need to be aware of that I need to respond? Not that type of conversation. I'm talking about just laughing. So what funny happened today? Or like, what really made you happy? Or what did you not like about the day? Just conversation that has nothing necessarily to do with an objective of me needing to do something, but just learning something more intently about my children and my wife.
Real
And I
communication.
realized
Yeah.
that slowing down and taking that time, I now see my kids asking other people when they're starting conversation, so how was your day today? What did you do today that was really interesting? And I love
So
it. Like,
cute,
it's
man.
one of those things that you don't realize you're creating this culture and environment
Yes.
where people actually want to talk and talk about things other than they don't always want to hear about. Did I do this? You haven't done this yet? Have you done your chore checklist? Have you done all your homework? Like, yeah, you got to get through that stuff, right? It's a part of life, part of where we are. Yet, there's this other piece about right now. Here we are. And I gotta give my wife credit for this. My wife loves rainbows. I'm not gonna lie to you all. I like rainbows, but I'm not so sure I get that excited about rainbows. But what it does, what I do love about it, it causes me to stop. Because my mind, like Josh, like you said, my mind is always going, man. I'm thinking about something all the time.
That little
Like,
hamster
everybody
is
knows
just
it. It's not even a
exhausted.
secret. It's just how
Yeah.
I'm wired.
Yeah.
But when my wife will break out in the middle of a conversation, she's like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking like something serious happened. And she's like, there's a rainbow. And she's just staring at it. She'll take like a couple of 10 seconds and just kind of stare at it. And I'm like, I don't know how much I haven't been really appreciating the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think for me, the biggest aha, especially as I am nearing a certain age in life, I'll just say that. I just
What would that be, Fred? We
just
don't know which-
realize I'm not even going there. Whatever.
I know you know. I'm not.
I
I'm
just
not pressing you.
realized
I know what it is.
how much about life, as much as I am excited about what is to come and appreciative of what is behind, there is something about the present
Yes.
and being in the present and just taking a moment
Mm-hmm.
to appreciate what God is doing for me right now. That's one aspect. A second thing that kind of really correlates to that is giving my kids an understanding. I don't like the word balance, but another word is not coming to mind right now, but a time of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up as a kid, again, I was very traditional. I can't even express how extremely, which I think Josh and I are probably in those same environments.
We
as PKs,
probably
but
could have grown up in each other's homes very
yeah,
similarly.
like very, very traditional, very, very religious.
Mm-hmm.
We had this rule, and I think also it's cultural too. We didn't do anything on Sundays. Going to church was pretty much the only thing we were allowed to do. Like, I remember there being kids' birthday parties, we couldn't go. If they were on Sunday, we couldn't go. If it was just my mother didn't wash, there was no ironing, there was no cleaning. Every now and then you might go to a store because you forgot a couple of items or something like that. But that was pretty much it. Beyond going to a place of worship, that's all we did. And I used to be upset with my parents, to be honest with you, if I look back at it now. Like, I'm missing out on this party, or why can't I go to such and such's house? And why can't we go to this movie, go see this movie, or whatever the thing was. It has taken me X number of years to now truly appreciate rest and what that day symbolizes. Donnie and I, we call it Sabbath Sunday. And we say that because we want to remind ourselves on a consistent basis, we're not planning anything on Sundays. Beyond going to our place of worship, that's it. Like, we have currently moved all of our kids' activities off of Sundays. We try really hard. Every now and then, maybe there's an hour or two that we work, but try not to do any professional work on Sundays and just kind of relax a little bit. Like, is something about what the word talks about it being a day of rest. Like, it was intentional. That was purposeful of what that culture was trying to create. Your body needs to refresh from all of that has happened the past 6 days. So it's simple stuff, man. Just, again, being very intentional about being present, making sure that I'm taking in rest, and keeping things balanced to some degree. Like, that's the culture when I think about what am I really focused on in my family, to make sure that my kids understand that it is important to be present. Yes, there are things and aspirations we all want. Daddy has some things that he wants to do. Mommy has some things that she wants to do. But let's appreciate the now. Let's not miss the opportunity to laugh together, to crack jokes. Lydia, of course, loves telling jokes. half the time they're not funny, but
Say
it's
them
just
so.
funny that she thinks they're funny. So we laugh because she's laughing. But sometimes in that moment, just laughing together, man, you don't realize how impactful doing that type of behavior creates an environment where laughter and peace and harmony can exist in your home in a way that you just saying it doesn't have the same impact.
Man,
Just
something you
doesn't.
just said, I'm not cutting onions over here. Something you just said made me think of something that happened like 2 days ago. And as you're talking, my mind jumped to it, and it choked me up a little bit, to be very honest, because I feel like all of our girls are sort of just crazy little hams that love to make jokes and stuff. And so it was so out of the blue and caught me so off guard, but it was so sweet that I just have to tell you what happened. So Karina was they were all in the living room on the couch after dinner. And I love what you said about trying to spend time together, like eating meals at the table is super important, dinner together. And after dinner, they pull out their little devotion book and we read just a little from like the Bible or the devotion book that we're going through. Oh, it's just it's a precious time. Like dinner together is fun. They laugh, they're cutting jokes, they're talking about their day. Like it's not this rigid dinner. They can't be too out of control, but like, yeah, it's just fun. It's real conversation and real good time. And so I think they were over in there. Ari was doing her homework or something. The other two were screwing around playing dress up with their little princess dresses or something. And I had just a trash day. It had been a trash couple days. Like I was trying not to show it, but I was just like beat down, man. Mentally, physically, spiritually. I hadn't slept well. I was feeling a little bit sick and under the weather. I just felt like I had a big hole in my chest, like spiritually. It was one of those days, man. You can't call it and you're just on the dip. And you're like, what is happening? I don't know. Everybody's got it. Everybody's got it.
Oh, yes.
And I'm not trying to be this bravado guy that macho covers it up, but I also don't need to like dip into that for my little girls. Right. But they could just sense it. They could sense what was going on, I guess. Yeah. And it's when you talk about the things you try to do with them because you hope they pick it up and you want that to be a part of your culture, something I always do, and I think I've told you this before, I look at them and I've almost like ingrained this and indoctrinated it into them. Like if I look at them and clear out of the blue go, hey, guess what? Their response has to be, you love us. And so I was just like feeling down, and they do it all the time, man. Because it's funny, I'll look at them and be like, guess what? And they'll be like, I love you. Or sometimes I'll be like, hey, Karina, and I'll give her the look. And before I can even say, guess what? She goes, you love me. Like she beats me to the punch. I'm like, yeah, I do. But actually, I was going to tell you to go like brush your teeth or, whatever. And so, but I looked in the other room and they were all sitting in there, and Alessia and Karina both looked over at me. And Karina goes, Daddy, what's wrong? And I hadn't said a word. She could just tell by like my countenance and who I was, like something was wrong. And her and Alessia both almost at the same time. They didn't rehearse it. It was like slightly staggered and sequential. They both looked at me. They go, Daddy, guess what? And I said, you love me. She goes, I love you. And I was like, man, that just picked me right up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God was like, see, these things that you do, maybe even if you don't feel like it, but because it's the right behavior of love, I mean this for you too. This culture that you're sowing into, even if it doesn't feel good all the time, but you believe it's the right thing to do because I've told you to do it, and you trust in me, much like this optimism, it's a trust and a promise in the future, even if it doesn't feel good right now. How can we make it better together? How we can get this all back to good and restore it the way creation was made to be?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real about my faith, man. I'm not one of these people that believes in this faith that God's just going to come down with hellfire and brimstone and blow it all up and start it all over and wipe us off in like this huge rapture, like this weird interpretation of scripture. He said, on earth as it is in heaven. And we've been sent to be salt and light and to restore, honestly, all of creation back to its original purpose. We are a part of that process. It doesn't mean you're going to see it in its end state.
Yeah.
But I really believe that everything I do should be investing in that kingdom culture, let's call it, where it's much more than the heaven and earth you see. That's my belief. That's just Josh. And I'm not saying y'all listen and need to think that way. But if I know I'm real enough to people around me that they can go like, how are you this way, even when all odds would be against you?
Yeah.
That's why. Because first of all, the one I put my faith and trust in isn't me. And he's done more for me than the accumulation of every human on earth compiled ever could have. And he's been there through me. They're in my story. Like, he can't take that from me. I know what it is to me. And so this culture that I try to make with my little girls, when I saw that reciprocated back, and it felt like a warm hug from a dad.
Yeah.
It did. And I got that from my little girl. And I was like, oh, yeah. I needed that. And I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And God was like, yeah, but you created that. You created, first of all, that little girl, and then you created the culture where she could do that.
Right.
And it was such a beautiful moment. And that might sound like a funny story to share on this topic, but to me, I think that's the essence of it to me.
Yeah.
It's the essence of what culture is. Even when you're not feeling it, you choose to love people.
Yes.
And you choose the right. And you hold tightly to that. And then when you need it, I promise you, you get that drip like you need it.
Yeah.
It shows up. And man, I cling to those moments. I don't forget them. I write them down. I gotta cling to those for dear life sometimes because it's not always that frequent. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Before we close this out, I think, man, there's this whole, I'd encourage y'all, go read 1 Corinthians 13. It's called the love chapter. But there's so much about it that talks about, I could speak in tongue of men's and angels. And if I didn't have love, I'm like this clanging cymbal. I could have these prophetic powers or understand all mysteries. If I had love, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. And when I was a child, I spoke like a child, thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, basically when I grew up, I had to let go of those childish ways. And for me, man, like I think culture, we have to let go of this childish, selfish, arrogant, pompous stance. And we got to quit talking about all the things that we think we're so good at. Because if we don't walk it out in love, we are nothing. And I think we are reaping societally the fruits of the seeds that we've been sowing of hate and discontent and division. And it's not a healthy culture. And sometimes you reap what you sow. It doesn't mean you can't be restored, but I think we are seeing a lot of the evil that we've thrown out into the world. And we're getting it back. And I just challenge people, like, where is your pursuit of being right?
Yeah.
Overshadowed your requirement to be love.
Yes.
Like that, I'm going to turn it back over to Fred, but that's the question I want to leave you all with. Where has your pursuit of proving a point and being the right one, like I was right in this conversation, where is that overshadowing your requirement to be love? And if you can't choose the latter half of that and you can't choose love, I would challenge you. Like you need to do some searching, some reflecting on who you are. Because you ain't making the culture I want to be a part of. And if I'm not doing it, you need to chop me up too. Because that's not what I'm trying to be about. But man, I'm going to turn it over to you because I want to hear your closing thoughts on this before we drop it out. So last words over to you. But if we could go on with this forever, my man.
Yeah.
This is a big one. But
this was even better than what I had expected. What I mean by that is just, you don't realize how deep it goes. I think for me,
it just kept going. And
right? Like when you
I'm
think
still
about
wanting
culture,
to, but I'm going to.
It impacts everything. Right? I think I would say the biggest takeaway is let's do a little bit of self-reflection. Let's make sure what our actions are demonstrating are what we want our environments to be. Because oftentimes, again, we believe we are the recipients of something, but sometimes we're the contributors. And it's in the actions that we have the ability to change and influence many of our environments as individuals. And think about it. To your point, Josh, we were talking about if everyone were to start, even just a number of people were to start thinking a little bit more reflectively about what they're doing, not just what they're saying, and how they're showing up in environments, and are open and honest to the feedback or the growth opportunity, imagine how much better we will be off. Like a lot of the things that we deal with and we struggle with, many of the things that we deal with and struggle with. And I love what you were saying, like how much do we allow our desire to be right supersede what we know to be right or what is true? And there's this alignment, man, and a shift that just really needs to happen. I think the more we are honest with ourselves, I think the more we can show up in an honest place and really grow. And until we can do that with truth and honesty, man, I mean, we're kind of in this stuck place.
Yeah. And I think there's a power in something that you do very well. And I'm told I do well. I believe I do because I'm intentional about it. But there's a power in encouragement. So if you want to go looking for people's missteps and mistakes and wrongdoings, well, we're all imperfect people. So you're going to find it 10 out of 10 times. But how often do people hear encouragement? Not that often, like genuine encouragement, not laced with anything. Just, hey, I'm proud of you for this, or I noticed you did this. So like, even if you don't know where to start practically to build a more loving culture and a more positive culture that you would want to be a part of, quit pointing out all the negative things and just take a moment to call out something you see good in someone. A quick compliment like, you look good today. Hey man, your beard's looking straight. Hey, you shaved your head. There's no stubble. Your teeth are white. That's a nice smile. Give a quick, it doesn't have to be anything flashy. Just be sincere. Give someone a little gust of wind in their sails. A little bit of encouragement goes so far. And I think it provides some courage to people. And it gives them a little bit, like they square their shoulders up a little bit and they stand a little taller, fix their posture a little bit, So like, even if that's all you can offer it. And don't offer the degradation and the division. Especially if it's someone you don't agree with. And I think if that's a low bar starting point, do that and just see what starts happening in your circle. Be known for that. It's worth a try, maybe. I don't know. All right, man. I love you, my brother. Thanks for we could keep going all day, but we'd love to hear what you think about this. And even if you don't get back to us, I hope you get back to good. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Back to Good. Don't forget to follow Foundational Coaching on your favorite social media platforms. Fred and I are honored to be a part of your story today. We hope this conversation has helped bring your head, hands, and heart back to good.